Immortal and Martial Dual Cultivation. Chapter 20. The Valiant Zhang He. Battle in Anger. Boom! A figure rapidly approached, streaking across the sky like a laser beam, leaving behind trails of afterimages. It nimbly went behind Zhang Ziyang and ferociously pulled him backwards, saving him. The figure then struck out quickly, clashing with Xiao Chen's palm. Only 2 breaths of time had passed since this person had shouted. His speed and strength were evident. A surging strength emanated from that person's palm, forcing Xiao Chen to quickly retreat 3 steps before he managed to stabilize himself. The blood in his body was in turmoil. Xiao Chen quickly circulated the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation to protect his Dantian and calm the fluctuating blood and essence in his body. In the front of Xiao Chen was the person who had struck out. The man was dressed in white. He was very handsome and had a faint smile on his indifferent face. His eyes held a trace of pride, making his expression seem colder. "Big brother, why are you here?" Zhang Ziyang, who was saved, shouted in joy. After realizing who had rescued him, he knew that he could possibly turn this situation around to his advantage. That person in white smiled gently. "I waited for a while, but you guys hadn't arrived yet. So I came to look for you. What timing! I got to see a good show." The person in white was Zhang He. He was the eldest son of the Zhang clan and possessed good innate talent. When he was 10 years old, he was accepted into the continent's capital's White Cliff School. He had rarely come back in the past few years. Based on his earlier palm strike, one could tell that his cultivation had already reached the martial master realm for many years already. Looks like there was no longer any opportunity to cripple Zhang Ziyang's cultivation. Since there were no longer any more opportunities, then there was no need for him to dilly-dally here, thought Xiao Chen. Thus, he turned away and started to leave. Suddenly, there was the sound of a sonic boom. Xiao Chen did not even bother to look. He just turned his body and launched a divine thunder break backwards. A bright lightning bolt streaked through the air, heading to the area between Zhang He's eyebrows. Zhang He pulled back and stood still, his entire body like a treasured sword. A majestic sword intent suddenly fired out from his body, leaving countless sword qi in the air. After a short period of time, that bright lightning bolt dissipated. "This distinguished friend, you bullied my second brother earlier and even seemed to have enjoyed doing so. How can you just leave like that? Why don't you stay and give us some pointers?" Zhang He stood straight with his hands behind his back, looking very casual. Although Xiao Chen did not turn his head back to look, he knew very clearly what had happened behind him. Zhang He had dissipated his divine thunder break. This person was indeed very strong, but he was just so-so. Xiao Chen was not afraid of him. This was just a mere martial master. Even if he could not defeat him, it would be very easy for him to escape. He turned around and smiled in a relaxed manner. "I have heard that the eldest son of the Zhang clan's martial spirit is the Holy Sword, Clear Sky Sword. It has a heaven and ground shaking might, and its sword intent can communicate with spirits. After seeing it, I must say that it lives up to its reputation. I, as an inferior grade martial disciple, concedes his defeat." Zhang He could tell that Xiao Chen's words were subtly mocking him for bullying the weak with his strength. He did not mind it at all, and continued to smile. "Brother Xiao is too humble. I heard that the number 1 person in your Xiao clan, Xiao Jian, was defeated by you in one move. That Xiao Jian was a proper peak martial disciple. He was even more unyielding than myself." Xiao Chen was surprised. This person had been all the way in the continent's capital, and yet he was so familiar with the news of the Xiao clan. This person could not be underestimated. Without changing his expression, Xiao Chen calmly replied, "It is just a rumor. Does young Master Zhang believe them too?" The two of them glared at each other, observing each other closely. Zhang He's gaze was as sharp as a sword, the clear sky sword letting out a drone. Additionally, a terrifying sword intent was emitted from his body. The sword intent became more and more intense before shooting out of his eyes. His formless sword intent seemed solid as it shot towards Xiao Chen ferociously with a sonic boom. The aura of a martial master combined with this flood of sword intent firmly locked Xiao Chen in place. Xiao Chen frowned tightly. The azure dragon in his body casually swam around his body, and the might of the ancient holy beast combined with Xiao Chen's aura began to clash with this formless sword intent. Under the might of this ancient holy beast, the powerful sword intent was stopped in its tracks about 2 meters away from Xiao Chen. It was unable to progress forward. At this moment, the two of them were in a deadlock. Zhang He's meteor martial master aura was not able to overpower Xiao Chen's seemingly insignificant cultivation of inferior martial disciple. "Big brother, why are you talking so much nonsense with him? He tried to kill me earlier." Zhang Ziyang stood at the side with a sullen expression. When he heard these words, Zhang He despised his own younger brother in his heart. It may seem like he had effortlessly dissipated Xiao Chen's divine thunder break earlier, but he had actually spent a lot of effort to do so and had used a lot of essence. Now, he was delaying Xiao Chen as he slowly recovered his essence. He was waiting for Xiao Chen to show an opening so that he could make a move. If the person in front of him was so easy to deal with, he would have made a move long ago. The aura that he had been gathering was interrupted by Zhang Ziyang's words. Zhang He had no choice but to retrieve his sword intent and make the first move. Xiao Chen did not have any fear in his heart. Instead, he was filled with a vigorous battle intent. He had wanted to test his strength out a long time ago, but could not find a suitable opponent. Xiao Yulan could have been a good opponent, but the poison of her poinsettia was too strong. If he battled with her, his life would be in danger if he was careless for even a moment. The strength of the other Xiao clan disciples were too weak, and it would be too problematic to seek the help of those elders. The Zhang He in front of him was the best opponent. He was in the martial master realm and had a holy sword martial spirit. Xiao Chen wanted to see what kind of results he could obtain in this battle if he used his full power. While Xiao Chen was thinking, Zhang He had already taken the advantage and dashed over to attack first. The wind from his palm was like swords as it slashed towards Xiao Chen's chest. Xiao Chen took a small step back and circulated his Purple Thunder divine incantation to its peak. There were arcs of electricity leaping around his body before they finally headed to his right palm. At that moment, their palms clashed together. Bang! A surging energy poured out and a stream of chi rippled all around. The two of them did not stop as they continued to strike out each other. There were sounds of loud explosions as the pair scuttled around the street. Dirt flew everywhere. The air was turbulent, and the crowd that was watching earlier had now retreated to a distance away. Zhang He's expression had not changed. It was still red and glossy, and he still had that faint smile on his face. On the other hand, Xiao Chen's hair was already messy. His face pale and blood trickled out of the corner of his lips. He looked like he was in an extremely difficult situation. But there were still traces of a faint smile on his face. He wiped the corner of his lips and tidied his hair a little. He looked at Zhang He in a relaxed and slightly provocative manner. Zhang He looked at Xiao Chen's provocative actions and felt his blood boiling. He almost vomited out a mouthful of fresh blood. However, Zhang He calmed down almost immediately. After all, he was not like Zhang Ziyang. he would not make such elementary mistakes. He smiled gently. You are strong. Looks like I underestimated you earlier. What a pity. You ran into me. I will cripple your cultivation today. Let's see how cocky will you be then. After he said that, Zhang He waved his hand and took out a long sword. This long sword was actually a spirit weapon. It was about 2.33 meters long and had a luster similar to limpid autumn waters. Zhang He's aura seems to have changed after holding the sword. His aura turned sharp, radiating all around. A pressuring sword intent emerged. It was as incandescent as the sun. His entire being seemed like an unsheathed treasure sword. Zhang He took 2 steps forward ferociously, and 3 streams of sword chi shot out, attacking Xiao Chen from different angles. Xiao Chen did not have a weapon in his hand, thus he could not block them easily and was forced to retreat backwards. Who knew? The sword chi seemed to be able to track him. There was no way to avoid it. When Xiao Chen retreated, the sword chi followed him closely, stabbing towards his throat. He was unable to avoid it. Seeing the sword chi about to stab his throat, there was a look of desperation on Xiao Chen's face.